You are now live. They're telling people you're here. Honeybee, how are you? Emilie, Susan, Daria, Orange Green Bird, Lucy,
the sky.
Vanyan, Susan, Carmel Visual Arts, how are you, sir? Sarah, Jim, Mr. Hance, how are you? Chris, Shelby, Vicky, Lillian.
Welcome. Bonjour.
Valerie Collymore, how are you?
Valerie again. Oh, Valerie, I saw you at WeWork. You know, your video there was so great. We need to talk about that.
Vicky Lou.
Daria from LA.
Eric and Sarah. Oh, Pierre, you're here.
Me? I'm here?
You're here.
Is it me?
Yes.
I'm looking at myself, but there is still that delay. It's very confusing. So, oh my God. So basically,
Deborah.
you know, we should change. Maybe I should be like letting people come into my house when we do a party. So please come in. Welcome to our live.
Catherine, how are you?
Welcome to our weekly party. It feels good. You know, I'm looking forward. Every time it's like throwing a party. I wish I could serve champagne and wine.
Jeanette. Julie Davis, how are you?
Okay. So
Blue Donkey, that's a good name. Blue Donkey, how are you doing?
Voila.
Galena.
So,
M. Morris, K. Martinez, Donna Fenstermaker, how are you doing? I hope you got a chance to play with some of that soft press.
Hey, do you see? This is the view of the village of Fabriano while you wait for the start. That was in the late 19th century. And this is the building. The headquarters is still there today. So
Debbie Marriott, Ruben.
So what do you say, boss?
We still
Ready?
have many people coming
Come on. Yes,
Alexandra Matos, how are you?
Okay, so we go 3 minutes. I think enough people came in the house. So 1, 2, 3. Bonjour! This is Pierre at Savoir-Faire, and here we are in Novato, California. Sunny day, beautiful blue sky for a change. We had orange sky, gray sky, white sky, dark sky, you know, with all the fires. So anyway, welcome home. Welcome to our weekly party. This is so fun to see you all coming. Always on time. So anyway, you know me, for the people who come here every week, you know, I have my 2 or 3 minutes of recap of the last few months. So here we go. It started March 16. The mayor of San Francisco called for shelter in place. I couldn't even understand the word. I didn't even know what it meant. It sounded like a nuclear, protection or something. So anyway, now it's been 28 weeks, almost 200 days since shelter in place, since the COVID. Then after we had the injustice demonstration and we have the fire. We've been in a rocky road for the last 6 months. It's crazy. And as I say every time, one of the things that's helping the world, helping you, helping us is the art. How art is good for you and art is good for the world. And I know it sounds like a broken record. Some of you said, again, Pierre. But it's true. I see it every day. This is a demonstration. As you know, we've been very generous, giving a lot of art supplies on service community and so forth, and kids and stuff. And every day we receive the reward. please use the art to meet with your community, your neighbors, you know, your friends, your customer, your family and all that. This is good for you. If you want to express politics, if you want to express frustration, if you just paint it away. So on that note, about art, justice, you know, all this situation, RBJ, you know, probably one of the most important person, American person, contemporary, just passed away. But this morning she was on Capitol Hill, and it was very touching. Very, very important lady. I think she helped bringing America, you know, with the justice and particularly with women, and it's a fantastic lady. And again, this is not a political, it's just a human being, an extraordinary woman. And today it was interesting because at the memorial there was some speech, and I think her rabbi or someone mentioned something about how art was important for her. And in fact, she loved opera because art is not only painting, it's also opera, it's a form of art, of course. And she had a friend, the opera singer, sing at the memorial. And there was reference of some paintings she had in her, I don't know if it's at home or at the office, that were expressing things about justices. I don't know the details, but even then, art was present, even with the justice. So anyway, just wanted to touch on that. And since we're talking a little bit about politics, without being partisan, voting, we're getting close. So please vote, whatever you vote. Vote and make sure all your friends and family and surrounded vote. It's very, very important. Every side you are, voting responsibility. And now that I'm American, I take a lot of pride, you know, to vote. So please remember your civic duty. So anyway, now today is very, 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 very special because we have a special guest. So I believe, didn't I hear that Emilie is on? Is she, Emilie, watching?
I think so. I don't know whether we're going to invite her as Emilie or as Raymar.
Aha. Well, I thought you were wondering whether or not we're going to invite her.
Well, I know we're going to invite her. So I'm gonna try Raymar. Emilie, if you're logged in as Raymar, that's how we're gonna ask you in right now. And
okay. So as
if you're not, then we'll try another way. But let me know.
Okay. So as we're getting, let me tell you a little story about the Dietrich family. I actually met Emilie's father, I don't know anymore, maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, I don't know, I didn't keep track of time, and Catherine, late husband, and we hit it off, you know, it was very special. I remember it was maybe at NAMTA or some kind of place, and we really very nicely connected, and he fell in love with Artfix, and we were trying to figure out a way to work with Artfix, but because of technical constraints, he was not in a position to use Artfix, and it was heartbreaking for him. But then we stayed friends, you know that, and unfortunately, he left us. And then Catherine ended up having to run the business when she was not necessarily grew up to be a business lady. And with Catherine, we were able, she found a way with her team, her daughter and her team, to figure out a way to use Artfix. And ever since, it's been a great ride. You know, we have so much common friends, and voilà.
Can you see me?
I was telling you.
I was having some technical issues.
Okay, I was. Don't worry, technical part. You know, we are fluid. You know, we learn technical. It's all good. So you know, it's a party. Remember, get a little.
Always be here.
So it's all good. I was telling the little story about how I first met your dad and then your mom, and how you guys were able to, develop the panel with Artfix. And ever since we did that, it's been an amazing journey. When we were talking to Yoshino a couple of weeks ago, we're talking about the journey is as important as the end result. And even though we are very successful with Raymar panel and Artfix, and then you'll know about Fabriano later, I think the journey of our relationship is quite something. And this is about human, about family business, about caring about the art. And we found, having those late night at plein air with both of you and our friends, how we have similar values. So it's such great to have this kind of a partnership together. And then I was talking about how I started with Catherine, and then Emilie arrived. Welcome, Emilie.
Yeah.
Now you're taking it to the next level. So
I am.
how are you?
I'm good. Very good. In
So-
Arizona, it's a bit hot, but
Well, that goes with the territory.
yeah.
So I was just talking about how we started working together with your
Yeah.
mom.
I remember. Yeah.
So tell
Actually, I remember. So
your relationship, how did you get into the family business? Tell me a little bit about your background, how you got here today.
sure. Well, I mean, I've been with this business from the start. So, it's been an interesting journey for myself, discovering that I'm really an artist. I don't think I felt confident using that word to describe myself for a long time. But basically, long story short, we started this business in 1998. And it came out of necessity because, my mom was always an artist, but then her art career kind of got backburnered, married, kids, and took care of the house. And I remember I was in high school and she wanted to get back to, getting her art career going. And so she started taking classes at the Scottsdale Artist School. They have been instrumental with us kind of getting started. And so really, we started, like most great tiny businesses, in the garage. So I was making panels by hand with my dad. It was very hot. I remember 120 degree summers, making panels in the garage. We had UPS pick up at our house. And really, we started just kind of word of mouth. It was very kind of grassroots. I think my mom took panels to her workshops. People saw them, said, wow, those look so much better than anything I could find in an art store or that I've tried to shabbily make myself. And the reason we made them is because I remember all three of her instructors. I believe it was Ted Gershner, Kevin Mcpherson, there's one other one. And all three said you need to make your own panels because nothing at that time in art stores was professional enough. Usually it was crappy canvas wrapped on cardboard. So that's how we started. And actually Kevin Mcpherson really helped us get going. So he kind of spread the word to his student base. And then, so I was with the business and, we had a few rocky years there in the beginning. Any small business that's getting started, and especially in the art industry. And I remember there was a period of time when I actually wasn't sure I wanted anything either to do with this or possible. So I remember it was, I think we'd been in business for a couple years and, starting to get going, and there wasn't actually money for me to go to high school. And so I worked 2 jobs in addition to Raymar. I also worked in the school cafeteria. It was very humbling. And I had a job after school so that my parents could keep the business alive, and I paid for my own high school tuition my senior year. Yeah. So it was an interesting time for myself, I think, because when I went off to college, the concept of being an artist didn't seem possible. Like I didn't know someone could actually be successful in the arts. And, you know, I went to a very rigorous academic college prep school, and it was very much about going into business. And so that's what I did. And I actually loved fashion design. I think I always was dabbling in the arts, you know, like growing up with this company, there was always some art supplies around the house. And then, you know, fast forward some years, I went to Notre Dame. I got my undergrad in business. And it was within 6 months of graduating, my father passed away. And it left a huge kind of gap in just myself, my mom, this business. And my dad was really the captain of the ship, running the business part, I guess you would say. And my mom is, you know, if you've met her, 100% artist, right brain. She's incredible. And I, at the time, was a commodity broker. I was working at the Board of Trade in Chicago, super finance world. And I remember calling her, not really enjoying my job, wasn't really fulfilled. Actually, side story, I always remember this day, you know, these moments that happen to you. And I was walking through the Board of Trade, and I get hassled about, you know, do I work there? And I go through there every day, and I couldn't figure out what the problem was. And I'm looking for my badge, and this woman says, you know, you just don't look like someone who works here. And I thought, huh, you're right. And I'll never forget the day. It was like that light bulb epiphany moment. And I had like a red and white polka dot top, funky shoes. And I said, you're right. I'm more of an artist. And that was kind of this turning point. And like I said, my father passed away 6 months, or actually at that time, a few months before. And my mom reached out and said, be my business partner. You know, she goes, I need help. I don't really know the business side of things, and let's run this thing together. And so that's when I stepped in. So I stepped in officially, I would say, you know, besides growing up with it, in 2008. And then I think I met you maybe 2 years later. I think 2010.
I don't
know
remember which year it was, but I think when I met you, because I had met your mom, I think with your dad earlier,
right.
With you,
Yeah.
probably at the plein air, one of the plein air show. I remember the time in Monterey that we really engaged, and when we really clicked. So we probably seen each other at the previous prior plein air, but Monterey was when we really got to meet. Remember, there was all our friends, the Tony Pros, the
Alexi, Jeremy,
Jeremy, and we had a wild party back in the hotel, and that's when we bond, and that's what I was referring to. And that's how we really realized that we had a lot in common as far as our values, our philosophy, and how, even though we're in business, and even though you did a great business school, and you know, co-run the business of Savoir-Faire. It's still a small business, slightly bigger than yours, but you know, with more people, more responsibility, and yet, even though we are in a pure capitalist for-profit business, there is something more profound that we share: the humanity first, and how art is essentially important. And we love art. We love the art community, and there is something about the human and art love that, to me, to us, to both of us, goes above and beyond the business aspect of our trade. So that's we found very you know, that was very it made it very special. But I want to say something. It's interesting. I didn't know. I'm so glad I didn't know that. Even though we spent a lot of time together all those years, but I never know that instance of in Chicago that happened with that lady who told you that. So it's interesting because you had a situation in your job where you said you don't belong here. And I remember, we may go back to that, and your mom, as an artist, in school being told that she was not a good artist because she was straying off from what the instructor wanted her to do, and she was so creative and to do something different. And she got her head cut off. So between you two had a similar pattern.
It's true, yeah, and that's why it's so, you know, artists, we're all so sensitive, and I think you have to be so careful of what you say, especially when someone is still kind of learning their craft, impressionable, trying to find their artistic voice. And I actually, I was moving recently and I found some old stuff I had done in high school, you know, and I was actually pretty good. And I noticed the few things that I got marked off on, and that's what I remembered. I always remembered the negative comment that I got that was wrong with it. And then somehow you remember that your whole life and you just need to let it go. You know, and, you know, I remember also being in high school and I loved fashion. I loved fashion design. I thought it was really interesting. I love the architecture of shoes. So actually I do, my kind of illustration stuff is more, a little more fashion oriented. And I remember someone said to me, you're so much smarter than that. You know, that's why you should go in business. Like, you're so much smarter than doing something like fluffy as fashion. And I thought, huh. And it took me so many years to finally get to a place and say, I don't know what that person was talking about, because there's incredibly intelligent people. Ralph Lauren, Coco Chanel, I would never say they were not intelligent. Yeah. And I have realized that I actually think artists are the more intelligent ones. I think every artist that I meet, I think are, you know, so attuned of what is actually really going on in the world, recognizing the beauty in things. And that goes way beyond saying doing accounting or finance, you know. So
great. All right. So this is a very touching story. So let's go to the present.
Sure.
So now we are strategic partners, and together we've created together first, you know, the art fix on your panel. I have a small one, and I'll get our latest baby. But for now, we've been writing the last few years. We were able to match the art fix, which is art fix. It's linen. The fabric is from Belgium, but it's prime in south of France, in Provence, and it's all handmade, 4 layers. You know, sizing the most archival, the smooth one. People find the, you know, touch the surface. Like, oh my God. I know some artists who are scared to paint on it because it's too beautiful. So, let's go. So we've had that, and I think your bestseller, from what you buy, I guess, that is the 64. We've made 64
maybe backwards
number. So it's interesting because 64 is a magic number for art fix, and it is also a magic number for Fabriano, because Fabriano was created in 1264.
Long time.
Just made the connection as I speak to you. So this is incredible. This is, and you know, I remember prior to meeting you, I think he was Richard Lindenberg.
Yeah, I think he introduced that.
Vanessa.
Yes.
When they were, or Eric Rhodes, or people like that were referring to you as like you and your mom, or they were referring to your mom first at the beginning, because you were, they said she's the queen of the panel. I mean, basically, in the eyes of those people, you are the market leader on panel. You have the know-how, the savoir-faire.
Yeah.
So I said, oh my God, you know, I remember Raymar. I used to know them. We started to work. And then, so you are so much bigger. I think people think of you as a major, because you have a great market share, that people think you're a big company. And then when I came to visit with you in Phoenix, and I saw that you are, you know, a small family operation, and you do it all.
We do.
You, and you have a handful of people who helps you, and it's fascinating. So I love it. So Artfix, and later I'm going to even to work, because last week, no, it was not last week, a few weeks ago, I was with the lady from the president of OPA. She was
Lizzie
there.
Baker?
She taught me how to do things to show the Chinese. I did that on paper. Now I'm going to do it on leather ready to our special Chinese orange.
Okay.
So first of all, and with you together, you introduced me to the greatest, painter that you are so close, like the Michel Dunaway.
Yeah, actually, she did.
All your friends are just so fantastic, and you run your business like a family, and it feels like each of your customers are your own family.
Yeah.
It's funny when you talk about Kevin Mcpherson also, because I've had my relationship with Kevin Mcpherson, and I remember meeting him in Paris at the Sennelier store many years ago.
Amazing.
When I was working with Jane Seymour. We were going to do a movie together with Jane, Kevin, and I, and the movie never ended up not happening, but we had some. I had my moment with Jane and Kevin in Paris, so it was very, very special. So Kevin, and on Kevin, it's interesting. We can talk a little more later because he's very known as a plein air painter. He was one of the plein air, before the movement, the recent movement, and he was on top of it. And recently, he's doing much more watercolor, and I've got Andrew very close to him, and it's interesting. And we see more and more of that. Oil painters turning into watercolor. Like Kwang Ho, is moving into watercolor now. You have the even Rayshaw Permanent is the artist that the lady in the water. And I just found she called me last week, said, "Oh, I just discovered watercolor. I'm gonna go." So there's a trend right now.
There is.
It used to be two different worlds. You have the oil painter and the watercolor, and I see more and more
kind of
painter
intermixing.
Watercolor. And on that note, and we have a new baby. Yes,
I have them here.
So this is what we've done together. So let me explain how it started, and then I'll let you speak. Yes, you have a question?
I do have a question. I zoomed in on Pierre here with this panel, and I think that the label on it is just beautifully done. Who does all of your graphic design?
Who?
It's me. So among many other things that I do, I also do all our marketing, magazine ads, label design, etc. So, and actually, I'm in the process of what's up? What?
I thought you were trained to be a trader in finance.
Was. Yeah. So I'm kind of a self-taught designer. I would say self-taught artist, all of it. Yeah.
So you did a great job. Fantastic.
Thank you.
So anyway, I want to come back to this. It was very interesting. We were, Andrew, how many years now? 2 or 3 years when we had the meeting with Lauren McCracken 3 years ago. Lauren McCracken and a group of his favorite greatest watercolorists, like Keiko, Tom Scheller, there was many of them. Matthew Bird, and then part of the discussion was kind of a little, meeting. What can we do for the art community and for the watercolor community? So one thing is very common, unfortunately, in the art world is watercolor. Usually, it's priced less than oil.
I know.
And a lot of watercolorists are frustrated because some are great talent, and in order to sell for better price, they have to change medium, where for some, watercolor is really their love. And so we're brainstorming with that. And one of the way we are looking at increasing the price of watercolors was the notion of work on paper versus work on panels or painting. Yes, a question?
No, I just said, I was thinking we should clarify the price of finished watercolor paintings, not the price of watercolor paints.
Yes, yes,
Uh,
yes. So not the paint, because compared to the painting, the paint is not that expensive. Yes, it's the notion that when you're a professional artist, you go to a gallery and you want to do a solo show or something. Well, the price for the same work, the same size, for the, you know, whether it's on canvas, whether it's a painting on canvas or it's on paper, the price can double, triple. It's rivalry. So I'm talking about the price of the finished artwork. So one of the things, so two things came out of this. To give them the tools in order for them to position themselves as full painters, as opposed to watercolorist, hobby painter, and so forth. So two things. One is we've developed a varnish, which we're not the only one, but Lasco makes a beautiful finished varnish. So you don't have to put glass on your painting. So that's one thing. But the most important is to, instead of being work on paper, it's work on the panel. So you can price it at the same price as a stretch linen. It's linen on panel. So then it was so interesting. So Matthew Bird and Lauren and a few other, you know, we sent them tests. So Raymar, the two, Catherine and Emilie, would send, communicate. And then, you know, some people were abusing the wood or the MDF, you know, in a sense, because water, sometimes people soak their paper on the panel and all that. And then you guys had the brilliant idea to put it on aluminum.
Yep.
So now you have the Fabriano Artistico on Raymar aluminum panel. And that's a breakthrough. It's the first that I'm doing, and it's amazing. So now the watercolorists can double their price thanks to Raymar. Merci.
Yeah, it's great. Actually, this is, let me see. This was Keiko Tanabe. I don't know if you can see it. The cool thing is that, you know, with watercolor, typically you always mount it afterwards and then frame it under glass. So the great thing is, once it's already on a panel, you can actually just varnish it. So that I think it's Lasco, the spray varnish that you have. So Matthew Bird actually does a fantastic article. If you don't know how to varnish your watercolor very well, it's a great tutorial on how to do it. And then you can frame your watercolor without glass. So it's, you know, no reflection. It looks beautiful. So he's an amazing one that kind of helped champion getting this started. And I think he's on a great crusade to, you know, make watercolor. It should be at that same level as an oil painting. I don't know why it ever becomes thought of as kind of a lesser medium, but it's not. I actually find it, you know, it's almost a little trickier medium. I think you have a whole other skill set you need. So, and I love the fluidity of watercolors. So this, making these panels was personally exciting to me. So.
Yes, and in fact, so I can tell you a little bit about that. We don't want to spend too much time about why is watercolor. It comes way back, you know, in the 19th century and beginning of 20th century. That's in England that watercolor really exploded. But the watercolorist was really, it brings up other injustice about it was watercolorist was mainly women more than men, and so the men had access to the museum and the gallery, but the women and watercolor, they would not be invited to be able to show in museum or high galleries. So that's how the concept of watercolor society started, and they were grouping together and trying to fight, you know, to be able to show. And it's been for decades and over a century, kind of not seen the same way as oil paint. It's historical, but now it's changing. Now you have really big high art painter that are doing watercolor, and watercolor is record. There's still work to do. Yes, Andrew has a question.
Well, I don't usually have to speak up so often. I'm sorry, but you are getting some fantastic questions coming in.
Okay.
So we have some great technical questions.
Okay.
let's see. I want to make sure I get from the beginning first. So Sue has asked us how the aluminum affects the pigment saturation on the paper.
So I will say I noticed there's a slight difference in drying time. So I always forewarn people of that. But actually, the colors look fantastic. And I'm going to play around with one here so you can see. But I always just forewarn people because, I mean, think about it. If you have just a plain sheet of paper, the air, obviously, in the back, there's a faster drying time. So I always kind of factor that in when I'm painting on the panel. But there's it's an interesting feel too. It almost gives like a greater weight or permanence to when you're creating it. I think versus just tearing off a sheet of paper in your watercolor pad. It feels like a completed, real great work of art when you're done. But I always say the drying time. Pay attention to that just a little bit. So and some people really like to work, wet into wet. So it's nice. It's all kind of personal preference too. So I noticed so we've been testing a couple different Fabriano surfaces. So we started out with the soft press when we were kind of doing prototyping panels. Actually saw a question here about buckling. No, I'll get to that. But so we prototyped with the soft press, which is unique to Fabriano. And actually, I think that's Lauren McCracken's favorite paper, as I remember, isn't it? Yeah. I really like it too. It's kind of that really happy medium between kind of cold press and hot press. It still has a nice little pebbled texture, but it's not so smooth as hot press. So I have a more difficult time working on hot press and watercolors. It's a great drawing surface for me, but and then so we came out with, I think the first official that we did on the aluminum was so it's a 140-pound extra white Fabriano cold press, and then we had some artists, Keiko Tanabe in particular, who really love that kind of rough, more of the rough texture, which is really great for a lot of plein air work. And you get some much more kind of that grainy speckled effect, which is great. And so we're looking at probably doing now a hot press paper or, going back to that soft press. So I saw a question on there about buckling. That's one of the amazing things of it being on the panel. And I know Keiko talks about that a lot. She did a great tutorial, which I will link to on our website, but she loves it because you can go outside, especially for plein air. You can go outside, paint directly on it. You don't have to tape it down. You don't have it in a pad that if it's not glued on all sides, it might buckle. So because of the kind of the weight of the paper and adhered to a panel, it doesn't buckle. So it's great.
Now, on a similar note to what you were saying earlier about the hot press, our friend Michelle Dunaway mentioned that that's a great surface for drawing. Yeah. But somebody else had asked, I believe Kim had asked, and Lucy had asked if the paper would work for dry media or drawing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so the answer is yes, absolutely.
I would say you're the paper expert. You're the Fabriano expert. So.
Yes, no, absolutely. You can use for drawing, but the advantage is, usually for drawing people prefer more smooth, hot press. Yeah. Soft press would be perfect because it gives a little tooth, a little texture without, but still it can still do fine drawing. But you can also include water medium. You can use ink, marker, different things. When you use a traditional only sketch or drawing paper, unfortunately, as soon as you put some water, it really gets damaged. So watercolor paper, and that's something I want to say, is the ultimate mixed media paper. So I know now you're on the market, mixed media, but watercolor is the most mixed media, including drawing. Yes.
We also had a Mr. Moody here asking us if it was 640 grams. It is 300 gram, but because it's mounted to panel, you don't run into any of the issues.
Yeah, but I want, because we did talk about that. So the reason why we use 300 grams after many tests is we even looked at 185 grams, 200 grams. We looked at 200 grams, 300 grams, and 640. And we could get away at the beginning, aesthetically, go with the 90 pound or the 200 gram, because it would be less expensive for the artist. However, we found that the level of absorption was not enough. So even thanks to the panel, you don't have buckling issue, you don't have warping issue with aluminum, certainly, and all of that. But still, and to answer the question, that answer also the question of a previous question about the pigmentation, the stay on the surface, is we found that the 300 gram was a minimum in order to give enough room for the color to be absorbed a little bit in the paper, to sink in, to give more in-depth color. When it absorbs a little bit, it gives depth, but not too much. It stays on the surface, so the pigment explodes. So, I mean, explode, sort of. And we don't need the 640 because the 640 gets to be much more expensive. And you really don't need the 640 because the panel does the trick to give the stability and no buckling. So that's my answer. Yes.
So we are running relatively low on time. We have a little less than 15 minutes. So I wanted to ask Emilie if she would demonstrate some stuff for us, perhaps while she is answering a few questions.
Oh, I didn't see. So is she ready to paint?
She's
well, I am not. Let me forewarn. So I'm a dabbling artist, I always say. So I can still say an artist, but you know, honestly, I spend my days more on making the materials and the marketing and the design work. So when I get to play around, you know,
you don't give yourself enough credit.
Don't compare myself. But actually, I will say there's a great book, and I was reading it earlier. This might be backwards, but it's called the Artist Manifesto. And it's the simplest book, and it's like, really, just call yourself an artist and don't compare yourself to anyone. And I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned over the years. So, okay, let me see if I can tilt.
Now, while you're doing that, Emilie, can you tell us, somebody had asked if there's any problem using a hairdryer with the paper that's mounted on panel. Will that negatively impact the glue or anything like that?
No, it's not I've never had an issue. I've done it. And it's not a heat adhesive. So what we found, you know, some people use like a dry mount heat, and people will leave panels in their car and it will kind of almost delaminate. But no, you can, I mean, more just be careful of your hands and getting aluminum hot. But no, it doesn't affect the paper or the art in any way. So I'm trying to see if I can get the camera so you can see what I'm doing. But
what sizes do you make?
Actually, the amazing thing is, because we're mounting it on, we start out with a 4x8 foot sheet of aluminum. And so one of the amazing things is you're not limited by the typical sheet sizes of watercolor. So I've had a lot of artists lately, and Matthew Bird too, you know, you're limited by that 22x30 standard sheet size, and we sent out some 30x40s, some beautiful size panels. If I can, this is one giant panel I have here. That's a 30x40 that I have on my easel.
Are you going to use that to demonstrate?
No, not yet.
Hey,
So
you know that
actually, this one I was very happy about. So I had the lucky experience of, there's a great artist, Sherry Engel, and so Michelle Dunaway, who's one of my great friends, incredible artist. She did this painting here of me. So I was lucky enough to travel with her to Florence, and then we were in LA, and we were just having fun with watercolors. And so this is one of the ones I've done. So it's a little crazy. It's some poppies. So this was just on paper, and then I mounted it on our boards. And that was before we started doing aluminum. So, but that was one thing I've done. And then I'll play around here. I might not be able to get the screen. I'll see how to do this.
Yes, they do. Yeah, can you talk about your custom sizes? They ask.
Yeah, like I said, no, really, we do. We actually have some amazing artists, and we sent 4x5 feet. So we make custom boxes. They're like almost designing a custom frame. So these beautiful custom boxes to really protect the panel when they're shipped. And so they're kind of our pride and joy when they go out of our warehouse. So we're very protective of them getting delivered safely. But yeah, so we love doing custom sizes. That's no problem.
Speaking of your delivery, do you ship internationally? We're getting some questions
We
about
do.
that.
We do all the time. We actually have a lot of artists in Australia. We've gotten a lot more. It's amazing. You know, I don't know, I guess just word spreads, which is amazing. But we've had a lot of interest in Europe lately. We've had small art stores in Ireland, in London, some stores in Italy that want to start carrying our product. So we're looking at how to kind of work on exporting. So that's a whole other thing. But we ship directly to artists all the time. We've had artists traveling overseas, you know, and they're running out of panels and we ship them. So, you know, like I said, I was traveling with Michelle. I shipped some product over for us, you know, some panel carriers and panels. So all the time.
And I did see that our good friend Ruth was watching from Blick. So there's stores in the US that carry your products as well, right?
Yeah. Blick carries us. So we decided to just have one chain retailer and we went with Blick. Blick has been fantastic to work with. So people can order online. We're in a few Blick art stores. So you can find us there. And then everything else, we're kind of in hand-selected boutique art stores around the country. Ones that I think, you know, we connect with. And then the rest we ship directly to artists all over the world. So
yeah, in fact, we were talking I think a week ago, you told me we were talking about working together, trying to have an international strategy. And I think my friend Dominique in Paris is open on the idea. So we'll talk to that. But let's go to your watercolor. Since we are talking about that, I'm also doodling. You know, I'm not.
Okay, I'm doodling too.
And then I want to show you, because a good friend gave me a present. Is Paul Craig. He gave me a present, and I realized it's on Raymar. It's on L64 Raymar. So
beautiful.
Good artist. I love Paul, by the way. So
is that Paul Craig?
Michelle Dunaway is watching us.
She is.
Yes. Hi, Michelle.
Bonjour, Michelle.
Actually, Michelle gave me this cup. She's my fellow Wonder Woman.
And,
it says, never underestimate the power of a woman.
You know, absolutely. You know, next time I put my shirt, the future is female. I'll next time. No, Michelle is a good friend also. And I actually owe Michelle a phone call about art fix and stuff, but that's offline. So what do you have? Is he, because I can't watch you. Are you painting?
I know.
Painting?
So I'm painting, but I'm doing something really quick. We'll see if it turns out. You know, and one thing I will say that I love about the Fabriano paper and the Fabriano paper on panel as well is the ability to lift color. So, you know, actually, interesting story. So a couple years ago, I took this watercolor workshop in California, and it's funny, I fell victim to kind of what I think a lot of students unfortunately do. And I admit I did it myself. I went to the art store and I said, you know, I'm practicing, so I just need some extra watercolor paper to play around with, some stuff I'm working on. And they recommended, and I won't say what it was, but it was some inexpensive paper. It was a thick pad. And they said, oh, because you're just playing around, use this. And I went home and I used it, and I was extremely frustrated because, you know, you didn't get any beautiful bleeds. I thought something was wrong with me, and what I realized was it was the paper. So I think sometimes, you know, artists or students when they're first starting out think, well, I'm not good enough yet, so I'll buy something cheaper and play with that, and then I'll buy the good stuff.
Yeah. So I'll tell you,
a terrible mistake.
Yeah, we have only 3 minutes. So yes, it's very resilient, and something you say something, I have to say something that I'm very, very much in the same way that I believe it's a big mistake. When you start to use good material, it's much easier to learn with good material. So the concept of roughing and knitting because you're a student and you have to suffer to try to work with bad product, I think it's ludicrous. And it doesn't make sense, and it costs more at the end. So yes, even if you're a beginner or if you experiment, you have to start with good product. But on that note, before we finish, we have the giveaway because we both have been very generous.
This time went so fast.
The giveaway. So
well,
when we're having fun.
We will have to have Emilie on again since it did feel like it went very fast.
I know.
So Cindy has given us one of our winners. Cindy, I don't know if you've picked the other winner, but if you have and I missed it, send it again. But our oil giveaway, who's winning the Sennelier plein air set, and Emilie's got it all wrapped with a bow.
Check it out.
And the L64 panels and the what's the other one?
I did L21. So
okay,
depending on if you like a little more texture.
That is going to go to Susan Kuanis. Did I pronounce that right, Susan?
Hey,
so
good job, Susan.
Send us a DM and we'll get you the details.
Hey, can I say something about the set and the 64? That's the 64, by the way. I was just doodling with. But it's very important because you say plein air set. Those colors were chosen by Richard Lindenberg when we were working together. But I want to tell you that there's some real strong color. There's the Chinese orange, my favorite color on Sennelier oils. There's the Urgio blue, very nice. But there's also cadmium red, cadmium yellow. So it's really good stuff.
And then our watercolor giveaway they've won a set of Sennelier half pans. As well as some of these new Fabriano Raymar panels. Is going to go to Ruben Negron. So Ruben,
I know him. Congratulations.
Congratulations to both of you. Send us a DM at Art Savoir-Faire and we'll take care of you.
So thank you. It seems like we're running out of time.
I
so
know.
we're going to continue, Emilie, just because we're going to, Instagram gonna shut us down, but you can continue to paint. I'm gonna say goodbye.
So I show you. So I sketched this earlier, and I was trying to recreate it on a panel. So I told you I have a fascination for shoes.
Yeah.
So this was my watercolor shoe.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Now, no one should wear a high heel. I used to wear high heels like this. So I was in the process on our panel. I'm not done yet, but. So I'm working on it.
Oh my God! I'm sorry, I see with
is it late?
30
It's too
seconds
late.
later.
Yeah. So that's my little shoe, and then I'll finish it. I'll finish it because this was just on a sheet of Fabriano, and then I was doing it on our panel. So it'll be a finished piece.
Finish it and send it to us so we can post it.
Sure. I will.
So I wanted to thank you, everybody, but continue. We're not done yet. We're going to stay until it goes out, but I need to make my legendary now. 1, 2, 3. Go paint! Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's always so nice to see you. Many of you coming every week. We love you. Thank you. Have fun. Go paint. Enjoy. It's a beautiful journey. You see, I don't know how to paint, and here we go.
Yeah,
Emilie, would you give a hug to your mom for me?
I will. I definitely will. So.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
It was great to see you, Pierre and Andrew, and everyone. Thank you for joining.
Okay, we'll do it again. Okay?
Pierre, I'll finish my piece and I'll send you guys. Okay.
Woo! Go paint!
Right.
Yes! Merci.